Hello, welcome back to the Off-Grid family. Today we're going to be doing something that was supposed to be a fun project, but it's more of a necessity now. We've put all our plants out and we've run out of slug pellets, which is the only sort of unnatural thing we put on our garden. However, because of being in quarantine and stuff, everywhere online is selling the same slug pellets we used to get for £1 for nearly £10. So as a fun project, we're going to make some slug traps. The first stage of this was about 2 months ago. I asked our next door neighbour, because I knew they drank a lot of bottled water, what they do with the water, with the bottles afterwards, and they just chucked them away, recycled them. So I asked for a few. They've given me a whole box of them. But we're going to turn them into some slug traps. But first of all, what I will show you is what you're going to need. Okay, you're going to need some empty bottles. You can use 2 litre ones if you like. We might do a couple of 2 litre ones. Some sellotape, some beer, and or yeast. What we're doing is, there's obviously yeast in lager and it attracts slugs, but we're going to try our own homemade yeast. This stuff has become denatured and not great for bread, so we're going to try and use some of that. So we'll do experiments to see which one they prefer, because if they prefer this is dirt cheap to make, and that's what we use in the future. Otherwise we just got the cheapest beer we could find. Okay, what you're going to want to do is cut round here. Now it's probably a good idea to follow one of the grooves, because the idea is you're going to place it inside like this, and then sellotape it in there, but without the lid on. So lids are not used for this, but these ones are made of HDPE, so they will turn up in another video eventually. We're putting them in like this, so that the edges line up here, and what we're going to try and do is now sellotape around it. Like that? Yeah, perfect. Okay, pass them to Lil. Right, so what do I do? Just sellotape. I'll show you now. What we need to do, grab a piece of sellotape off, plonk it like this, if you can. Yeah, okay. And then wrap it over. Wrap it over. Because these won't be watertight, so do the rest of that one as well. Okay, so that's the next stage. We've got sellotape all the way around, so no moisture can actually get out from around here. Now, that's important because obviously we're going to be using beer as the bait. It may not be so important if the yeast idea works. Okay, that's them all sellotaped up. We won't talk about why there's one with 2 in the thing. We'll leave that. But if you just have a look, all we've done is sealed around the edges, just purely so that when we lie them down, which is how they'll be laid down like this, it's not just going to all seep out. We will lose some, especially on this one, because it hasn't actually been stuck at all around the side. Right. Okay, but this one has been sealed all the way around like that. And basically it will just keep the contents in. Okay, the first 5 here we're going to fill with beer. Well, not fill. We're going to put like an inch in. I'd say it's a waste of good beer, but this is not good beer, so it's fine.
It's really satisfying to watch.
And I'll put this bit in the extra. There you go.
A little bit left.
So that is these ones with the beer in, and we'll put them outside in a sec. And the next ones we're going to try is with the homemade yeast. Okay, this will get messy, I'm sure. We will actually be doing a video on making your own yeast in case you can't get any during this time. Okay, this is going to get real messy very quickly, but this is the yeast.
Yuck. Yeah, messy already.
It stinks, by the way.
Yeah, it smells very vinegary, but
it smells
it's still very
bitter.
yeasty.
It smells bitter.
But yeah.
It's not
So
a great
no
smell.
one knows much.
We stopped feeding it and it all decided to die, which is what happens.
I was in control of it, but I forgot, so...
Yeah, that's alright. Happens, doesn't it, love?
With my old brain.
So how many spoonfuls are we doing?
I'm just randomly putting it in. I've put 2 in.
2 in the
We'll
other
see.
one.
Like around 2 because that's not
Yeah.
over like...
That didn't
It's
work.
like with golden syrup, you have to spin it quickly.
Yeah, but this is not.
Golden
Wow.
syrup.
I wouldn't add this to your porridge, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same mind.
Yeah,
Okay, so there are our contraptions, and we're going to plonk them outside, and we'll see what they've got in them tomorrow morning. Put your vote down in the comment section if you think it's going to be homemade yeast or if it's going to be the beer. Okay, I've plonked them around various places in the garden. That was a spare beer one. Apologies for the wind. As you'll notice, I've put sticks and stuff on top of each one. That's to avoid them blowing around if possible. I don't think these will stay here overnight. I think they're going to blow away because I haven't bothered placing them properly, but we'll see. Alright, I'll see you in the morning. It seems to be working. The size of a snake. They're terrifying. Okay, so we've made 3 different types now. We're going to be using our yeast in all of them. We're going to add water to it because it was just overall there was like 100 in each of the ones with yeast and a few in the ones with beer. So what we've done here, this one, you fill this up with the beer. This has obviously got the holes in, so you slowly lower it in. You put the lid on. You catch your slugs, then once you have, you pull it out slowly. You can get rid of the slugs and chuck that back in. Then we just got normal slug traps and then some 2 litre ones. We just want to get all the big slugs now. So we're going to fill all these up with our yeast, but I'm going to water it down heavily, obviously, so they can drown in it, because the first tests were just what do they prefer. Okay, what I've decided to do is do our yeast and then add beer to it to make it more liquefied, so we got the best of both worlds, and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to fill all these up. I'll do a couple and then I'll skip to the end. Yummy.
Delicious.
Okay, same with these ones. I could have taken the lid off and made it easier for me, but you know what I'm like. Okay, and then with this one you just leave it to slowly go down. Don't push too hard, you don't want it to go everywhere. And there you go, it just fills itself up. There you go. Right, we're going to plonk these out in the garden and we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, I've placed them around the garden. You can bury them so that the lid is actually at the same level as the actual path or whatever, but I'm just chucking it like that. As you'll see, I've placed things up against them just to stop them blowing around the garden. Right, not trying to break any of these movie magic moments, but we did these slug traps and the video for them over a month ago, and it is still getting huge numbers. And literally every day it'll dry out and they'll all die, and then that night there'll be loads left back in there again. They're all the same. I'm not sure how well you can see in that one. It's madness. Okay, as you can see by my hair, my beard and everything, it's been quite a while since the beginning of that video. Normally there's not such a dramatic difference between not in lockdown and, you know, I'm getting my hair cut. But anyway, normally we spend a few months trying out certain things on the channel and seeing if they work, and this is sort of proof that we do that. Right, the results. The small bottles like this worked just as well as any of the other things. However, they did not catch the bigger slugs. The bigger slugs literally would have most of their body out, and they'd be eating or drinking or whatever you want, and they would then just turn around and go out. There was huge numbers of them, but they just find their way out. This did, however, catch loads and loads of the smaller ones. The yeast in particular caught the most out of everything, and so when we mixed yeast and beer together it worked wonderfully. And I think, to be honest, we could have just used water, but I had very, very horrible beer left over and I wasn't going to drink it, and I didn't want it in the house really, so I thought I'd use it. So yeah, these worked for the small, very, very small slugs. The 2 litre bottle ones worked incredibly well, as you saw from a bit of the footage before. That was getting, I'd say, 30, 40, 50 every single time I'd go out and have a look. There'd be another 50 in there. And the thing is, they'd then dry out throughout the day, the actual slugs, and then the dead slugs would attract more slugs to it. So as the time went on, they seemed to get more efficient. One thing with the yeast and the beer, it would dry out as well in very, very hot weather, and all I'd do is when I was spraying the veg, I'd spray it into the actual slug traps, and then they'd start, you know, they'd be regenerated, they'd start actually getting more slugs in again. Now the butter tub ones that I made didn't work too well, and to be honest, it's because of where I placed them. If you place them in the ground, it would work absolutely fine, but because of the lip on the top of a butter tub, the slugs weren't wanting to get over it. I saw a lot of them on it, but never very many in, so it's sort of like putting an extra obstacle in their way. So if I had dug that down and put it so it's flat with the floor, I think we would have had a lot more slugs in there. But so that wasn't a very good experiment. But I will say, if you've got small slugs, use the small bottles. If you've got big slugs, use the big ones, or the big ones will work for both, I suppose. So just use big ones. But the 2 litre bottle ones were insanely good. And to be honest, I put them out, I've put them out now every couple of months. You know, every time they dry out completely or fill up, and I have to redo them, I literally just wash them out a bit, and then I chuck a bit more in, and they're just so effective. But I'm not having to use slug pellets. I had to use it on my courgettes, but they just seem to attract slugs from, you know, other neighbourhoods. But other than that, I haven't had to actually use any slug pellets, and I did relent and buy some, sadly, but I didn't know how good these would work. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any other ideas of home sort of remedies or, you know, traps of various kinds, give me a shout, leave me a message, whatever. And if you got this far, like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye for now.